What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to episode 33 of the U.S.S. Enterprise D tutorial. I'm Zero Elite, and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's episode. And if you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. Today we got about a 30-minute video, and we're going to be starting our construction on the deflector dish. I've been looking forward to this, and I've actually been dreading it too, because this is by far going to be the most difficult part of the build. But don't worry, I got you guys. We're going to go over all the steps that I take to get us there where we need to be, where the deflector dish looks exactly how it looked in the teaser episode. So without further ado, let's go ahead and I'm just going to jump right into this thing. We'll be going off of the bottom lip here, the third block back. We're going to be putting blue concrete one up from that. Then we're going to be going up to the top here on the lip, the dead center. We're going to be putting another blue block right there on the back of the lip. From there, we're going to count out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. Probably going to go out to 34, 35, but really we're building this out to the length that it needs to match where this bottom blue concrete block ends or meets. So we're going to bring that all the way up. And I'm not going to count out this bottom part, but I'm going to do it slow enough to where if you need to, you can count this out. The main goal here is that this vertical line that we're doing is going to meet the horizontal line that we just added directly above us. Alright, we're in good shape. Now, we're actually going to be going back to this and counting it out again because we're going to be dividing this in half. And that's going to give us our center. This is a neat little way to determine your center off of this top row here, because the deflector dish is not necessarily going to be encompassing this little top lip right here, but just where that top line is. This is pretty much how we're going to determine our center. So we're going to count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And I think we're ultimately going to move that up by one more. His main goal at this point is that we need to be in the dead center from where the top and bottom meet, dead in the middle. So if yours is a little bit taller than mine, really what you need to do is count out from the base of your vertical line to the top, meeting up to the horizontal line. You take that number, you cut it in half. If it ends up being an off number and it looks like it's going to be too wide, then make the blocks too wide, or make the center too wide. Guess I had to move up by 1. Actually, I think I'm going to move that back by 1 just so it's on the center. There we go. 2, 3, 4, 5. I've only got 4. Yeah, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. We're going to go out to 24s. We're not trying to meet the whole way over on the lip. On the sides. We're not trying to accomplish that. Alright, so we got 24 on each side. Now in just a moment, we're going to be going over to our pixel circle generator. Now, I use this, but this is going to be the one and only time I'm going to tell you guys not to use a pixel circle generator. You're going to need to build what I have here. And the main reason for that is because I'm going to be making some minor adjustments to my circle based off of the area that I have to work with. Now, just in case you want it, you can see that we have the width, which is 48, and the height is 23. So we have our base to go off of. So now off camera, I've taken a screenshot of that, and I've written down each row so I know what the dimension is. We're going to start off from the top. Going one down off the horizontal lip. The same thing on the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we're going down to the bottom here. So going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And actually we're running out of room. And see, this is why I'm saying that we're going to be making some minor adjustments to the oval to make it all fit, because the bottom of the ship is it's not going to mesh with it. Now I could have gone back and made it a little bit smaller, but I'm going to show you basically where if you're set on that circle, what you can do to fix that. So you can see what I did right there. I did that kind of quick, but I actually cut a row off each side, off the top. So instead of it being 7, it was 6. Because remember, directly below us, I can only go out, and I was short by 1. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side. We're going to add 3 more. One with a cut. Alright. We're in good shape. Now we're going to do the same thing down here. And even making that tweak, we're going to be off a little bit. So now, just for the purpose of what I'm doing here, I'm going to be swapping out these blocks that are going into the hull. This is just going to be temporary, and I'm doing this to maintain the circle, basically, to keep it exactly where it's supposed to be. Okay, we're in good shape so far. So we're building the top and bottom basically at the same time. Now we're going to do another row. We're doing 2 2s. See, it's going to be cutting in a little bit. Nothing we can do about it. Not right now, but once we get our template in place, then we're going to come back and fix it. Really, the only important thing right now is the outline. Now we're going to go back on all 4 sides and we're going to do a single. It's a little dark back there, so I need to get some light going. I apologize in advance. I'm trying to make a point here as I'm going through my builds, adding light where it needs it, but sometimes here and there I forget. As you can see right there, I popped back in to add that sea lantern, because it can get a little bit dark here and there. Alright, we're in good shape. We're going to do another row. We're going to do a single row of 2. Now let's do the bottom. See, again, you can see I'm following my rule. If I do one thing on one side, I'm doing it on the other, because the top of the oval matches the bottom. This is why I say a lot of times you don't need to take down the full oval or circle. You only need one portion, or one. If you cut it into 4 pieces, you only need one of those pieces in order to make a full one. That's true here. But we're basically doing it slightly different, whereas opposed to cutting it into 4 pieces, we just cut it in half directly down the middle. And it's small enough that we can get away with doing that. Now, if you're building on a larger scale, then at that point, I would recommend cutting it into 4 pieces. This way you don't have that much of a template to go off of. It's a little bit more manageable. But in this case, we can get away with it. All right, and then this one we're just going to do straight up, so this way the bottom meets the top. And we've gone out 1 with a cut. The same thing on this side. All right, we're looking pretty good. We're gonna get some sea lanterns up in here and see how we're looking. And I think we're actually gonna end up working on this deflector dish all week. I was going ahead and I was looking at some of my recordings, and I have to see how that plays out. If we end up being able to get this done by this week, or if that goes in the next week. We might even get done before then, because I haven't actually looked at the length of all the episodes, so we're going to play that one by ear. But this is going to take a couple of episodes to get this right. So we've got a good template to go off of. We've got our oval. This gives us a good idea of proportions, the size that we're going for. Don't worry about the sides right now that there's a gap. We're going to address that. And there's a gap on the top. We're going to address that too. Right now, we're just trying to envision the very back wall of the deflector dish, because we're going to be building out from that, making this into a 3D shape. At this point, I'm just trying to decide the next course of action to take, or the next step that I want to do. You're going to see me doing that from time to time while we're working on the deflector dish. Just because this is, I mean, I'm not kidding, this was the most challenging part of this whole build. I think it was even harder than the neck. It took me a little bit to get where I wanted to be on this thing, and it's one of the reasons why it took so long initially to get this tutorial out. Because it was a challenge. So now you can see that we're adding a row of yellow, and I'm extending that out by 1, and we've gone up 1 row. Other than that, we're pretty much going to stay true to the flow, and then on that side we're going to be going over by 1. So we're going to do the same thing on this side and bring that over by 1 more. Let's go over this side. You see what we're doing right now. I'm fixing the oval basically. I'm making this work based off the template that we already have. So that kind of gives me an outline of where it's going to go. So let's head back over to this side. We're going to get rid of the sides here, because I think we're going to end up redoing that. This is really, it's the 101s of shipbuilding. We're wireframing this out. We've got a base to go off of, and then when you have that base to go off of, you can start making changes to it. See what you want to end up with. And it's okay to experiment, try different things out and see how it looks. There's no rule that says that you can't do that. And I do that all the time. This is what helps me to come up with the designs that I have, because I'm willing to experiment and try new things. I make several different saves of this build. And if I don't like it, it's not a big deal. I can just go back to the previous save, and this gives you a lot of room to try new things. And that's one of the reasons why I like it so much. And I'd recommend anybody do this, because building in this way, it allows you to stumble upon greatness sometimes, basically. Or basically, maybe you weren't necessarily intending it to come out that way, but because you were willing to experiment a little bit and try new things, the build came out that much better. And as we go and you follow the rules that we've established in building this ship, you'll get there, I promise you. May not get there on the first attempt. You're going to see this as we're building out the deflector dish, but it'll give us that base to go off of, and we'll be where we need to be. Now you can see on this top side here, really what I should be doing is building this on the inside. But I'm doing it on the outside because I want to stretch it out ever so much. Or ever so slightly, I mean. But the important thing is that we're building, even though we've brought it up by 1, we still need to make sure that the top pattern that we're adding is matching what we're doing underneath us. Now, for me, this isn't that big of a deal because I've done this fresh in my mind. So I remember the pattern. If you need to, Do it the same way that we did the other row, did the initial gray row. Build the top and bottom at the same time. Kind of close in there, but let's see if we can make it fit. That might actually work. Now we just need to do the two going down with the cut. Oh, I deleted one of the hull blocks. I'm going to have to fix that. Now, one of the reasons I'm using orange, again, because I want this to stick out, and this is I'm considering this a builder line. So I'm not necessarily sure that I'm going to commit to this, and when you use a block color that sticks out, it's much less likely to bleed in with everything else that you have. So again, that's the main reason why I'm using that color palette. Even though there's no orange on the deflector dish, you're not going to see that when this is done. We're just doing that right now, so way this, you know, our oval sticks out a little bit, and it doesn't bleed in with the inner gray oval that we added that we're actually going back and we're deleting right now. So we're going to be doing that going all the way around. We're going to get rid of this older row now, because I think we've adjusted our oval pretty good to where we can see all the sides of it. Now we need to adjust our center a little bit, it looks like, which isn't a big deal. We can do that. Pretty much just moving that up by 1. Do that on both sides. This access. Okay. We are in good shape. Now you can see my main reason for doing that now is that we can see the whole oval going all the way around. As opposed to before, the oval was bleeding in on the bottom row, it was going into the hull a little bit. Now it's not. That was the main reason why I did that. That gives us a really good idea now the proportions that this thing is going to be, because the deflector dish is pretty massive on the Enterprise D. So now, we're continuing on to the next step, and directly in front of orange concrete, we're going to be doing a row of blue concrete. We're pretty much going to be using blue for the entirety of this build. Normally, blue would be one of our builder lines. That's why I switched to the orange, because the deflector dish is going to be blue. So that was kind of the thinking behind that. I wanted that original line to stand out, so I had that to go off of if I need it. In, going all the way around. I want to make sure that we're not getting any access as we're doing row to row. Just literally just adding a layer on top of our pre-existing oval. Pretty cut and dry stuff that we're doing right now. As long as you follow that step, you're just adding a layer on your pre-existing oval. You can't make a mistake. As we go, today not so much, but later as we go during the course of this oval is when it's going to get tricky, and that's going to be figuring out how this is going to transition from the top to bottom because of the way that the ship is curved in the front of the lower hull. That's going to be a real challenge. And then also blending in the sides to that. There were a couple of areas there where it took me, like I said, a little bit to kind of figure that out, what I was going to do. I swear I was working on this, just this section alone, maybe for like a week or two before I actually got it to where I wanted it to be. Now, that's not to say that that's going to take us that long to do that during the course of this build, but that's how long it took me to do in real time. But we'll see how it lands. Because I think more than likely we're only going to be going into the end of this week, maybe beginning of next week with the deflector dish. But we won't be spending that many episodes on it, not as many as you think. So we're going in again and now off the inside lip of the yellow. We're going to be doing a row of blue. Now we're starting to make this into more of a 3D shape based off of our original. I just actually noticed the color palette that I had there is my Miami Dolphins colors. You happen to be a fan of football? Totally did not do that on purpose, but whatever. Alright. Let's zoom out, see how she looks so far. So far, so good. You can kind of start to envision a little bit what I'm going for. This inner row here is the back wall, basically. This is where the actual deflector dish itself is going to go, the brown one, right in the middle. And this lip is where we're going to start to transition to go and add layers to it and blend that in with the sides and everything. And it doesn't seem like we've gotten that much done so far, but believe it or not, this is a good place to be at. Now you can see one of the problems that I was kind of having here was how to make this work at this point. As you can see at the bottom here on this bottom side, we can't really add any more layers in. You see what I mean? Because now it's meeting the hull. So it's like, okay, do we add some more layers in on the inner rows here to cover that up? There's a couple of different ways that we can go about doing that. Or do we maybe extend, add some layers on the bottom side, the actual hull itself? There's a couple of ways you can attack this. It really just depends on what you want to do. For right now, as you can see, I'm just going in, I'm trying to add rows where there's gaps where I can. And I'm doing that in a pattern of 3. And I'm also going with the cut line. But really the main thing that we're trying to get is a sense of proportion. Well, not so much proportion, because we've got that with the backbone of the oval itself. But we're trying to develop some shape here and seeing how that's going to work with the room that we have to work with. Now see, once we get on the top side here, it's really not that big of a deal because we have room to work with. But it's the bottom side that's going to hurt us the most. And the steps that I told you just a moment ago, whether we're adding additional layers on the actual deflector dish itself or adding a layer onto the hull, those are 2 possible solutions that we might end up coming back to. But we are going to have to correct that because it's all blue on the inside, basically, depending on which model that you look at. Because this is another thing, too, and I've kind of hinted on this during the course of this build. And if you're not aware of it, I'm going to mention it again. But for those of you that don't know, there's actually 5 different versions of the Enterprise D between, and I think that there's actually 6 at this point if you count Star Trek Online. But over the course of the 7 seasons of Star Trek The Next Generation and the 1 movie, there's 5 different versions of the Enterprise D, and I'm pretty sure that the Enterprise and the Galaxy class in Star Trek Online is ever so slightly different from all those versions too. So you can make the argument that there's 6 different versions of this ship, slight variations. So some of those, you might see that there's actual, the deflector dish is not nearly as big as I'm about to make it. As far as, because pretty much this whole inside area, as we're going out, this is going to be the deflector dish. On other versions of the Enterprise D, this is exactly how it looks. At this point, it's dealer's choice. Do what makes you happy. If you want a smaller version of the deflector dish, go with the smaller one. If you want the bigger one, go with the bigger one. I personally, as I was going, I just decided that based off the room that we had to go with, we had a lot of room to close in, and I really liked that bigger look. I think it fits it really, really well. So I just kind of ran with that, you know. But you've got some wiggle room in between there, you know. Because at the end of the day, these are fictional ships. Play around with it, have a little fun, throw in a little bit of that artistic flair. But you don't want to do it to the point that you're losing the identity of the ship. I think that you can make creative variations, slight variations, as long as you're staying true to the ship. I think you can fully get away with that. Like looking at, if you take my Star Trek Beyond Enterprise A refit that I did, that's a clear example of taking some liberties. But the way that I did it was I molded the original Enterprise A with the Star Trek Beyond Enterprise A, as far as the engines go. And just that subtle hint right there, I thought brought a little bit more cohesion to what the Enterprise A should have looked like, because that was like my one gripe with that ship, is that even for the Enterprise A, they referenced the TOS Enterprise, and it's just not the way I would have gone. So, you know, kind of at the end of the day, you know, decide which way you want to go, because what I'm doing is not necessarily the right thing. These are just my own creative choices, you know what I mean? But all in all, I think that this is going to work out pretty good. And if you haven't seen it, check out my teaser episode of the Enterprise D. You'll see what the finished deflector dish looks like, and I'm actually very, very happy with it. All things considered, considering all the problems that I had with it, I was actually very happy with how it came out. And getting back in a little bit what I got going on here, you can see on this top side, we're going to be extending this out by 2. And I'm not doing that yet to the bottom because, again, remember I was talking about this, we're going to have to address that curve going back. So the top side of this deflector dish is not going to be identical to the bottom side. We can't build it like that because that's not how it looks. But we need to do this gradually, and if we take our time with it and do it little by little, it's kind of like, I don't know if any of you watch Man vs. Wild, but there was an episode where Bear Grylls, I forget what celebrity he had on there with him, they were getting ready to climb down a mountain, and Bear Grylls looked at him and told him, you know, the best way to handle this is just break it down piece by piece. Right now, I just want you to get down to that ledge. Don't worry about climbing the mountain. Just get down to that ledge. And once he gets down to that ledge, it's like, all right, now we're going to get down the next ledge after that. And they just kept going and going. That's exactly what we're doing right here, just in building form. So, you know, don't think about the whole, like, daunting task of building out the whole deflector dish. Right now, we're just worrying about the layering process. We'll figure out everything as we go. But it's just one step at a time, one move at a time. And we'll get there. So I'm going to try to bring that out as much as I can where I can. But we're pretty much going to get maxed out as we get towards the bottom. What I mean by that is that we're not going to be able to add any more rows. Yeah, this is the last one right there. So that gives us something to think about. Like I said, we've got 2 solutions that we can do with this. We can add another layer going inward around our dish, or we can also add another layer of the hull. Might be easier at this point to add another layer of the deflector dish rather than adding another layer to the hull itself. And what you're you're seeing me do right now, I don't think we're going to keep this. I was actually just trying to think of a way that I could blend in the sides here with the deflector dish. You see I'm going back at an angle with the cut. That's how I'm determining that. I'm going to zoom out and take a look at it. I mean, to be honest with you, that's not going to be that far off from where we land on, but it's not exactly what we're going to do. And at this point, I've pretty much have hit a building curve, at least for this portion of the recording session. I kind of was like, okay, well, what do I do now? I do know one thing. These changes I just made, I don't like those. So the best thing to do in a case like this, you're not sure what to do and the solution that you just made doesn't work, step away from it for a minute. This is going to be a great spot to stop today's episode, I think. Yeah, even that right there that I'm adding, I'm not really feeling that. You can see two solutions that's not working. We've exhausted all of our attempts at that point to come up with the next step. Best thing to do is just to put it down for the day, let it rest, think about what you can do to fix it, and we'll revisit this tomorrow and go from there. And that's really all we can do. But don't worry, we're going to get this done. And I'm really excited about it because we're going to be getting that much closer to getting the outside finished so you guys can see what I've got going on with the interior. I'm really looking forward to showing you guys some of this stuff. And don't forget to let me know what rooms you want to see me do on the interior. I've actually had a couple people dropping suggestions. Thank you very much for that. I do see them. I'm not commenting on those right now because I want it to show up in my feed. And if I comment on it, it's going to disappear. So if you don't see me commenting back, don't get discouraged. If you get it, you see that you got a like, that means I saw it. So be sure to drop a comment below. Let me know what rooms you want to see me build on this ship, because once we're done on this thing, I won't be coming back to it. But anyway, I think that's going to wrap us up today. I just want to thank everybody again for tuning in today's episode. And if you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, helping me and supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. And new subscribers, don't forget to hit notifications on so you get notified when those new videos drop. And speaking of new videos, you can always catch my new Minecraft videos dropping Tuesdays through Thursdays. And of course, if you have any questions regarding this build, don't forget to drop a comment below, or if it's just to say hi. Definitely love to talk to everybody. But anyway, that's going to wrap it up for me today. I just want to thank you all again for tuning in today's episode. I hope everybody has a happy and safe week, and I'll catch you on the next episode.